that. Oh my God. I laughed the entire night. So there was a guy, probably early 20s. I want to say 20, 21. I could be wrong. But he was in a motorized wheelchair. And he couldn't move his arms or his legs. But he could talk. And he was talking to me before the match started. And we were just kind of shooting the shit. And he was pretty cool, you know? So then the match started. And I expected him to like cheer or whatever, you know? Dude, he trolled the shit out of those wrestlers. They came walking out, and he looked at one of them that was walking by, because one of them like walked by and was like, "What's up, man?" He looked at him and goes, "You're a bitch." I was like, whoa, what'd you just say? And he said, "That guy's a bitch." And I'm like, whoa. And his mom was sitting right behind him, and his mom was laughing the entire time. So then every time like something would happen and it'd get like really quiet, he would scream something out. He'd be like, "You suck." Dude, there was one wrestler who came out with like this girl, and she was standing on the side of the ring, and he was like, hey you. And she turned and looked at him. He goes, "Can I get your number, baby?" Like, damn, dude. Then another wrestler came out who was walking around, and he said, "Hey, you suck. Get in shape, fat ass." And I was like, oh my God.
Holy shit.
The guy walked by, grabbed the shoe, like he reached over, grabbed the shoe from the guy, took it off of him. Now keep in mind, this guy's in a wheelchair, and then threw his shoe into the crowd, and the crowd started booing him. What did that guy do? He looked at the crowd and said, "What? It's not like he uses them. They're pointless." I was like, oh my God. Anyways, it was an amazing night. I loved it. I love the local wrestling. Those wrestlers go all out because they're trying to make it big. It is excellent entertainment. And I think we're going to sponsor a few of the next events. So
nice.
Yeah. And I think, well, I don't think so. A few months from now, we're actually going to have a meet and greet. And don't be surprised if there's a wrestling event at our meet and greet. Just throwing that out there. And I'm being dead serious too. So
Nacho Danielson.
I'm gonna have you run inside there and wrestle people, Dan.
Make sure there's like some tree props in there. He's in the trees.
Oh my God. All right. Well, yep. That's what happened last weekend. I can't remember what happened this weekend. I don't know. Anyway.
Never been to a local wrestling match. I need to go.
You're gonna go.
The only ones that I know that any of my family members have gone to are the midget wrestling ones.
See, I don't like those. Number one, they're way overpriced. And number two, they're not as fun. At least I don't think they would be, because you're going to kind of make fun of their disabilities. At the real, I don't want to say real, but at the I don't want to say regular either. At the other wrestling events that are non-midget wrestling. And I don't even know if that's the correct term to use, midget wrestling, but that's what they call it.
That's what they call it, yeah.
It seems like those, I don't know. I feel a lot more better about myself going to the regular ones.
I feel like it is like a lot of it making fun of it, because from the pictures I saw, the ring is miniature sized as well.
Oh, God.
And I'm just like, oh, that's
a little messed up.
But
yeah.
To each their own, I guess.
All right. Well, you have anything else you want to talk about or say before we roll out this episode?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, thank you for your support. Seriously, it means a lot to us. You are all amazing. Every single one of you. I'm proud of every single one of you, and I love you. So with that being said, Dan, you want to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you are not alone.
Theories
of the third kind.
Welcome! First off, I want to say thank you to whomever you are listening for opening your minds again to receive extra knowledge nuggets this week. It means a lot to all of us, and I want you to know that. Also, before we start, since you are a Patreon subscriber, remember that you get priority in topic suggestions.
So go ahead and shoot those suggestions on over to us, either by email, Instagram, Facebook, Discord direct message, Twitter, or if you want, you can write us a handwritten letter and send it to our P.O. Box, which the address to our P.O. Box is located, of course, on our website under contact. Nice. All right, so today's episode is over the Yuba County 5. So how today's episode will go is we'll talk a little bit about what and who were the Yuba County 5. We'll go into a little bit about their personal life, and then we'll transition into the event that occurred in 1978. And then we'll go into strange facts and findings, theories, and of course, wrap it all up with our own personal thoughts and theories. So with that being said, Dan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, well, let's get into today's episode.
In 1978, 5 young men from Yuba County, California would travel an hour away to watch a college basketball game together.
On their way back home, these 5 men would vanish in the snowy mountains.
After an extensive search, many odd and weird things were discovered.
Did the men just get lost and die in the cold mountains? Or did something more nefarious happen to them?
This is the Yuba County 5.
All right, so to start this topic off this week, I figured that we would have Dan take the reins and explain to us what and who were the Yuba County 5. And by the way, real quick, if Dan sounds a little bit different, a little bit stuffy maybe, it's because he has some allergies going on, okay? Give him some slack. He had, he had somebody break into his home and spread pollen all around. While he was sleeping, he woke up, he had to shoot himself with an epinephrine pin. Shit's crazy.
5 of them.
5 of them, damn.
I don't know how those work.
All right, Dan. So take it away and tell us about this Yuba County 5.
All right. So, like Aaron said, our topic is the Yuba County 5. Now, before we start, though, I have to ask Aaron, before today, have you actually heard of the Yuba County 5?
During research, I heard about it, but before we researched it, it was one of those things that I kind of like scrolled past and I was like, okay, some people disappeared. Not really my thing. However, once you sink your teeth into it, it's freaking insane. But to circle back to your question, before we did our research, I just knew the title of it and I didn't do any digging into it. So kinda.
Nice. All right, let me go into a little detail about them for you. So this is a story about 5 men in 1978 who ended up driving an hour away to a basketball game and then never made it back home. Then a few months later, 4 of the 5 men were found dead. This event will be known to some as the Americans' Dyatlov Pass incident. But before we get into the main part of the story, let's see if we can get a grasp on who these 5 individuals were.
So all of these men were between the ages of the mid-20s to early 30s. And all of them had some type of learning issues. And it was stated that their intellectual levels were that of teenagers. However, I highly doubt that because later on in the story, we talk about one who has an IQ of 40? It's like, god dang, dude. Anyway. Now, because of these men having some learning issues and not very smart, they all lived at home with their parents. Also, the families of these men actually nicknamed the group of them, of those 5 men, and I quote, the boys. Just the boys. Even though they were all middle-aged men. And just a side note, the family stated that this nickname for them was not a derogatory one or one that kind of like made fun of them. You know, it was just like, hey, these are the boys, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how like we are. You know, when we get together, we're just like, oh, it's the boys. The boys are back together. Just a term for a group.
Who's we?
Me, you, and our behind-the-scene guys.
Oh, I was going to say, we haven't hung out in forever.
It hasn't been forever.
Yeah, it has. Felt like it to me. Anyways, tell us about the youngest of the group, Dan.
All right. So the youngest of the group was 25-year-old Jackie Charles Hewitt. Jackie lived on the farm with his family where he would spend time playing with his Beagle Bo. He would also spend his time riding his dirt bike around the property, which, Aaron, I know you know a lot about, you and dirt bikes.
Random knowledge nugget, ladies and gentlemen. This is Patreon exclusive, by the way. I used to race motocross when I was a kid. My dad raced it all growing up. He ended up purchasing me a PW50 when I was 4 years old. And then I had my first actual race when I was 4 years old. And I think I got like second place or something. And then I moved up to a KTM 50 and raced that. I mean, I went everywhere in Texas and raced. Village Creek, I went to Lake Whitney and raced there. Waco Eagles Motor. I moved up to a KX60. And then I went to a KX 125, and then after that I just quit riding. So yeah, I've got some experience racing dirt bikes. Random knowledge nugget.
I didn't understand any of that, really.
Okay. Well, they were all just mainly dirt bikes I was talking about that I owned.
Were they different size engines?
Yep.
Gotcha.
PW50, 50cc, KX60, 60cc, you know. Oh, I also had like a CR Big Wheel 80, which was an 80cc. It was a Honda CR80 Big Wheel. Then I had a KX Kawasaki 125.
So 125 was 125cc?
Yep.
Nice. All right, back to the story. Jackie was very shy, and when he tried talking to other people, he would develop a speech impediment. So his social skills weren't that great. Now, Jackie's mother, Sarah, described him as being slow, but overall, he was just a generally happy person.
Damn, Jackie's mother don't give a shit.
No.
All right. Now, Jackie was reported to have an IQ of around 40, which is extremely low. I think if you look at IQs now, I think if you have an IQ below 75 or 70, you're considered mentally, I don't want to say retarded because that might be the wrong word, but that's what they describe it as.
Back then, that is what they called them. I didn't want to put it because I don't like saying that.
Okay, well, I'm talking about back then, okay? No offense, people, I don't use the word in my regular day vocabulary, but that's what they were classified back then. And even today, anybody that is under the IQ of 75 or 70 is considered to be mentally disabled, all right? And Jackie was sitting here with an IQ of 40. So, as well as having a low IQ, he wasn't able to read or write. And sometimes he would need help making phone calls, which that would make him pretty anxious. So there was another guy in the group named Ted Weir, who Jackie would treat as, like a big brother. And some people even called Jackie a shadow to Ted. And this brings us to our next person, Ted, who was the oldest of the 5 men. He was 32 years old and he had actually served in the Army.
So, Ted's mother described him as a very loving person who loved life and people, that he was just genuinely a friendly person with anyone he met. Only thing though, he reportedly lacked common sense. Ted would go around waving excitedly at strangers and would become upset for hours if they did not wave back at him. Now, why would that upset him? Well, it's because he thought he had done something wrong, which he hadn't, of course. They just didn't want to wave. Just unfriendly people.
Yeah. And like we said earlier, Ted and Jackie, the first person we mentioned, they were super close. Ted would treat Jackie like a younger brother, and he was very protective of him. And some other things worth mentioning about Ted is that he would like to call his buddy Bill over the phone and read him funny sounding names from the newspaper, which I wish I had a friend like that. Dan, why don't you do that? Why don't you read the newspaper when you find something funny, you call me and tell me about it?
Well, I don't get the newspaper, but if you want, I'll go buy a newspaper every now and then and just call you.
Okay.
Just 3 funny names.
All right. All right, so something else that we thought we should mention about Ted is that one day